The New Orleans Saints might be hiding the fastest turnaround in the NFC South, and the scary part is, most of the league still thinks they are harmless. That is the mistake. This team did not spend the offseason acting like a club stuck at the bottom. They moved like a front office that saw something late last season, something real, something worth building around. Tyler Shough gave them life at quarterback. Chris Olave gave them a true star. Travis Etienne Jr. gave them speed in the backfield. And now Jordan Tyson walks in as the rookie weapon who can change how every defense lines up against New Orleans. But this is not just about adding names. That would be too easy. The Saints changed the shape of the whole team. Kellen Moore has an offense with more answers now. Doug Nussmeier has a young quarterback who already showed he can steady the room when the season gets messy. Brandon Staley has a defense with young pieces, moving parts, and enough pressure up front to make Sundays uncomfortable. The strange thing is, New Orleans does not need every player to become a superstar. They just need the new pieces to fit, and for the first time in a long time, the fit actually makes sense. That is why this season feels different before it even starts. The Saints are not walking into the year begging for respect. They are walking in with a quarterback who changed the mood, a receiver room that finally has real danger, a run game with fresh juice, and a defense that already believes it is ahead of schedule. And buried inside all of that is one nasty rookie in the trenches who might bring the edge this offense was missing. But before that name matters, everything starts with the one player who flipped the entire timeline in New Orleans, Tyler Shough. The Saints season did not slowly turn. It snapped. One week, New Orleans looked like a team searching for answers. Then Tyler Shough stepped into the huddle and the whole room felt different. He was not loud. He was not trying to sell hope. He just played with a calm face while everything around him felt heavy. That matters, because bad teams usually stay bad when the pressure arrives. The Saints did not. The proof was not one lucky Sunday. Shuck went 5-4 as the starter, and his full line made people stop laughing at the idea. He threw for 2,384 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, while completing throws at a steady clip. He also added 3 rushing scores, which gave the offense another way out when plays broke down. For a rookie season, that was not a finished product. It was a warning sign. Now comes the part that can change the franchise. Shuck enters this year as the clear starter, not a young quarterback waiting for permission. That changes meetings. That changes timing. That changes how teammates listen when he speaks. The Saints saw enough late last season to stop chasing panic and start building around him. But a quarterback can only rise as far as his weapons let him go, and New Orleans made sure Chris Olave would not be fighting alone anymore. That is where the next problem begins for defenses. The Saints did not need another quiet body at receiver. They needed someone who could change the way a defense breathes. Chris Olave already proved he could carry the room, but carrying a room and freeing an offense are not the same thing. When every safety leans his way, every route becomes heavier. New Orleans knew that weight had to break before Tyler Shough could truly rise. That is not hype. That is roster math staring at everyone before the first snap even happens. That is why Jordan Tyson matters the second he walks onto the field. He is not being treated like a slow project. He is the rookie pick to stretch coverage, win outside, and make defenses hesitate before rolling help toward Olave. His college work showed hands, body control, and real scoring feel, but the bigger value is pressure. If Tyson earns respect early, the Saints offense stops looking small. Corners cannot squat on short routes. Safeties cannot cheat without paying for it. Then the rest of the room finally gets space to breathe. Devon Vell can work cleaner inside. Juwan Johnson and Noah Fant can attack softer matchups. Oscar Delp, Bryce Lance, and Barrion Brown give New Orleans more young options waiting behind them. None of this works if Olave is trapped every snap. But if Tyson pulls coverage even a step away, the whole passing game opens. And that is when the backfield becomes the next problem for every defense trying to survive New Orleans. The first thing defenses have to fear now is not a deep shot. It is the simple touch that suddenly becomes a problem. Travis Etienne Jr. gives the Saints that kind of stress. One handoff, one screen, one swing pass, and a safe call can turn into a drive-changing gain. That is why this move matters. It gives Tyler Shough easy answers without making the offense feel small. The numbers back up the danger without needing to scream. ETN came off a season with 1,107 rushing yards and enough receiving punch to scare linebackers in space. That matters for Kellen Moore because his offense can now move the same player around and force defenses to show their plan early. If a linebacker follows ETN, the Saints know the coverage. If nobody does, the ball can go there fast. And then there is Alvin Kamara, which makes this even more interesting. New Orleans does not have to squeeze every hard snap out of him. They can use him with timing, touch, and control, while ETN carries the burst that changes field position. That is how the Saints protect Shuck without hiding him. They give him speed beside him, choice behind him, and pressure on the defense before the ball even moves. That is when simple football starts feeling impossible to defend. Snap after snap. But none of that becomes dangerous unless the line stops leaking heat, and that is where the real swing factor starts next. The Saints can have every weapon they want, but if the pocket collapses, the whole plan turns into noise. That is why the line is not a small detail. It is the hinge on the season. David Edwards arrives with real playoff scars, not empty talk, and that matters for a young quarterback learning how to control full games. The left side now has a different feel with Kelvin Banks Jr. growing into his role and Edwards settling beside him. On the right, Taliese Fuaga brings power and balance, while Cesar Ruiz gives New Orleans a guard who has handled heavy snaps before. In the middle, Eric McCoy is the quiet piece that can calm everything when healthy. This group does not need to look perfect. It needs to look connected because one missed call can turn a clean drive into a rescue mission. Here is the pressure point. New Orleans also has Jeremiah Wright, the rookie guard from Auburn who plays with the kind of force coaches notice fast. He is not being handed anything, and that is what makes it better. If he pushes the room, everybody feels it. If injuries hit, the Saints are not empty behind the starters. That kind of depth is how a season survives the ugly weeks. And once the front starts protecting the plan, the next question moves to Brandon Staley, because his defense has its own hidden piece ready to shift the entire field before opponents even understand the next disguise. The Saints defense has a secret that does not scream on paper. It moves. It bends. It hides the answer until the quarterback is already guessing. That is the kind of world Brandon Staley wants to create, and Jonas Sanker might be the piece that lets him do it. He is not just standing deep and waiting. He can roll down, cover space, trigger against the run, or show pressure before the snap and vanish after it. That kind of player changes the whole picture. Caden Ellis can attack from the second level without the Saints losing shape behind him. Chase Young can hunt wider because the coverage can rotate late. Tyree Wilson gives the front another body with real upside, and that makes protection calls harder before the ball is even snapped. The point is not chaos for no reason. It is controlled pressure, the kind that makes a clean play feel crowded. And here is why it matters for the season. New Orleans does not need its defense to carry every game alone. It needs stops at the right time, short fields when the offense is warming up, and one mistake forced from a quarterback who thought he had the answer. If Sanker becomes that moving piece, Staley can make the same defense look different from drive to drive. That is when opponents start slowing down, and once they slow down, the Saints can hit them with the nastiest surprise in camp next, before they ever adjust again. Now the name lands. Jeremiah Wright is the rookie the Saints slipped into the room, and he does not feel like a normal fourth-round gamble. He came from Auburn with size, force, and that uncomfortable habit defenders hate. Finishing blocks after the play already feels over. New Orleans needed that attitude, not noise, not fake toughness. Real push from the inside. Wright was drafted at pick 132, and that tells you the Saints were hunting value, not headlines. He is listed as a guard, but his story has more edge because he once played on the defensive line before living inside the trenches on offense. That background matters. He understands contact from both sides. He knows how defenders want to fight through pressure, and he brings that same patience when he latches onto a block. That is rare for a young lineman. The key is not whether Wright starts right away. That would be the wrong question. The real question is how uncomfortable he makes the veterans ahead of him. If Cesar Ruiz feels that heat, the line gets sharper. If injuries hit, the Saints have a body built for ugly snaps. If the run game needs one hard yard, Wright gives them another answer. This is how a room changes without a speech. One rookie walks in angry, and suddenly everyone blocks like their job is on the table. That pressure points at the NFC South. The Saints are not chasing a giant. They are walking into a division where nobody is pulled away. That is why this window feels so dangerous. The Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers all have real talent. But every team still has questions that can tighten a race fast. New Orleans does not need to scare the whole NFL today. It only needs to become the cleanest team in its own neighborhood. That is where the pressure shifts. Michael Penix Jr. has the tools to lift Atlanta, but the Falcons still need the full picture to settle around him. Bryce Young gives Carolina hope, but the Panthers are still shaping the offense around his next step. Baker Mayfield keeps Tampa competitive, yet the Buccaneers cannot afford many slips if the division stays tight again. Nobody here is weak. Nobody here is untouchable either. That is the opening New Orleans has been waiting for. Tyler Shough gives them direction. Chris Olave gives them a trusted star. Jordan Tyson adds fresh danger. Travis Etienne Jr. changes the backfield. Brandon Staley gives the defense a flexible plan. If those pieces connect, 10 wins is not fantasy. It is a target. And if the Saints reach it, the story changes fast, because the NFC South stops looking like a race owned by someone else and starts running through the Superdome again. That is when everyone finally notices what New Orleans built already quietly.